Well, Walton Goggins, first of all, congratulations on finally being recognised by the TV Academy. What went through your mind when that news was announced that morning?
I actually was responding to Tim Oliphant's nomination, and I screamed so loud that I woke up my 6-month-old son, and he started screaming. And I said, "You're excited about Tim getting nominated too?"
Nice.
And then went online and saw my name and got a phone call from my manager and I was speechless, really. I didn't know what to think. It was surreal, being a trite adjective, but I was just very grateful to be included in this company of very talented actors.
Mm.
Well, you play Boyd Crowder on Justified, and as I watched the show, I mean, he is a chameleon. You've got so many different colors to play with this guy. When you go from script to script to script, what do you feel like's going through his mind? You never know what to expect from him.
No, you don't. And we actually had the benefit of this character being killed in the pilot episode. I had agreed to do one episode because I'm an old friend of Tim's. I'm a huge fan of Graham's, and it's on FX, on my network. So the story, Fire in the Hole, the short story, in Elmore's mind, did not have Boyd Crowder living beyond the short story, and in fact, he died in the pilot. So when they came to me and asked me to stay on, I just thought that we had a really unique opportunity, because I think pilots, more often than not, are designed to introduce you to the characters that you're going to be spending time with, and you're asking the audience to kind of go on this journey with them. But in this particular case, what I think we all wanted to do, and certainly what I wanted to do, is introduce them to a completely different person in episode 2 than the person they met in the pilot. And for me, anyone that I know that has had a near-death experience for whatever reason, more often than not, find God. And I thought, what an interesting twist to this guy's story. And kind of with that conversation, it led to this entire kind of religious conversion, and then him kind of perverting that message and kind of putting it in his own box, and it was unbelievable. It's really been an experience of a lifetime.
Mm. When Chris and I was speaking to Tim Oliphant a few weeks ago, he mentioned working with you. You guys always strive to do scenes in a very different way, like you've never done before. Just to mix things up. And he gave us a few examples, but we'd like to hear from you what it's like working with Tim.
His creative contributions. Tim's a producer, and his ideas are so spot on and so specific and so surprising. When you're working with an actor like that, you just kind of trust that you're going to go places that you haven't gone to in your own imagination when you're sitting in your bedroom at night before the day begins. And he's just one of those actors, that is really special, and we just kind of find it. Most everything that kind of happens on Justified, and certainly my scenes with Tim are not premeditated. We just have no idea how it's going to happen, and it's only on the day, and with an idea that may kind of come from Tim or myself, or Tim's improvisation of a word that just kind of sends it on this tangent, and you're just smiling from ear to ear. You're just satiated at the end of a scene.
Well, the episode from this season you chose for the Emmy judges is "The Eye of the Storm." Can you talk a little about that particular episode and why it meant so much to you?
Well, it was. It's a tough kind of episode for Boyd, in the sense that at the end of season 1, he had lost 18 of his men. 18 of his men were summarily executed, and it was very painful for Boyd. And I think what the audience, hopefully, what we were able to convey is that Boyd was a true convert, and that these lives really meant something to him. And for a person who lives in extremes like Boyd, there's only one way to go when your foundation is rocked, and that is to the desert. You have to get as low as you possibly can, and the bottom of a well wasn't deep enough. It took going to the bottom of a coal mine in order for him to kind of get some peace and tranquility. And for me, Eye of the Storm was really the apex of this pain that he was experiencing and remorse that he was experiencing, and he just wanted to be left alone. And every single person that comes up to him is disturbing that peace, and so much so they're all itching this scab until a gentleman at the very end of the episode pulls the scab off, and Boyd erupts with all of this pent up anger and resentment and hostility and deep grief, and through that action, he finds some peace. It's okay once it's kind of been released, and for me it was very cathartic as an actor to go through that, and I think very cathartic for Boyd, and I just thought that, well, you know what, maybe that's appropriate for this particular case.
Well, before you started playing Boyd Crowder, obviously, it'd be remiss to not ask you about Shane Vendrell. Most people who are fans of yours will be wanting to know more about The Shield, and how much do you miss playing that character and the cast and crew of that show, and just tell us what that experience was like for you.
Well, I almost wore Shane's leather jacket in this interview just for good luck, man. That experience fundamentally changed my life. I really didn't think on the other side of that, and Michael Chiklis and I have talked about this at great length, that we would ever get an opportunity to play characters as nuanced and as complex, or be given an opportunity really to be on a show that would kind of give itself enough time to explore those nuances. So Shane Vendrell really is so very dear to my heart. I'm still in contact with everybody. I was just in New Orleans actually for the past 2 days for this read through, and Michael was down doing a movie at the same time, and so we just went to dinner the last 2 nights in New Orleans. Kenny Johnson, who plays Lemonhead, is one of my best friends, and CeCe and Jay Carnes and Sean. We're all still very, very close, and are so protective of that experience. And it was like I get approached quite a bit on the street now, and it's by fans that are passive. If you watch The Shield, you had to be an active participant. Yeah. And what we didn't have in numbers, we didn't do network numbers, but we certainly did passion. And it's so grateful to be approached on the street and for people to ask you questions, and then you just look at your clock and an hour's gone by because you're sitting there saying, "Yeah, I know, that was crazy. That was crazy too," because I'm as big a fan of the show as anyone, and not just for Shane, but for all the actors that came on the show, even the guest actors that came on the show. So it's an experience that Michael and I have talked about this too. That when we're 80, if we make it that far, we'll be able to sit down together and watch them maybe one more time and laugh at all the crazy experiences we had.
You got to own a piece of FX by this point, right? Did they give you like a gold watch at your
There's a little bit
decade moment?
There's a little bit of stock. Stock in craft service, like the craft service budget. They'll just kind of throw that my way. It's like Shane, playing Shane Vendrell. It was so interesting. He's not the smartest guy in the room. In fact, I would say more often than not, he was the least smartest guy in the room, or he had less information than everyone. Always. That's a nicer way of saying it. And to go from playing a guy like that to playing Boyd Crowder, who is more often than not the smartest man in the room, And not only has all of his thoughts going through his mind, but all of the thoughts of everyone else present or seated at the table going through his mind is just, I pinch myself every day. The words that Graham and his writing staff and that Tim come up with, and they let me kind of participate in that process as well. But going in the vein of Elmore Leonard, it's poetry, and Boyd Crowder at the end of the day, at least how I try to approach it is he's a poet, and he sees things through a poet's eye, and even if they're criminal, he still has flair, and he's a performer, he's a Svengali, he's a showman, and it's just it's the opportunity of a lifetime, and let me, because I'm on a roll here, and I did a show with Michael Chiklis for 7 years, and I barely got a word in edgewise. Michael, Boyd. The thing about Boyd Crowder that for me, even when I'm working with Tim, that is still so surprising and invigorating to me, is I have no idea who he is, who Boyd Crowder is in love. I have no idea how Boyd Crowder wears a suit, how he has dinner with the CEO of a coal mining company, how he makes love to a woman, how he drives a car. All of it is a journey of discovery, and I've never had that experience in my 20 years of doing this business, and I'm just so grateful that this good fortune is following me.
Yes, that is so fascinating, Walton, because watching you on the show, it's really difficult to know what Boyd's going to do next, and that's part of the mystique and the appeal of the guy. So the fact that you're saying that just really drives home probably the strongest element of this guy that you're playing. But I want to completely change topic because we're running out of time, and there's something that we really want to know about, and that is, way back, 10 or so years ago, you had the joy and pleasure of being involved in a short film that then won an Academy Award. We really want to know what that whole experience was like, because it looked like you were having a lot of fun on that night. We remember it quite clearly.
It was with my best friend Ray McKinnon and Lisa Blunt and my filmmaking partners, and they wouldn't grant us an interview on the carpet unless we were the very first people there. So literally, we had the limo, and the limo, CNN was kind of doing this little segment on the short film category, and they liked our story. And so they were following us, and we took the limo down to the Kodak Theater the first time it was there. We got out of the limo, and there were just mobs and mobs of people screaming with their cameras up until we got out. And then they all dropped their camera. There wasn't one picture taken. And then we walked into the, I'm going to try to condense this, but we walked to the entrance of the red carpet. They hadn't even set up the security apparatuses yet. So they made us wait for 45 minutes until we were able to finally get through and get to E to do the first live interview from the red carpet. It was only because that's the only time that they would give us. So they didn't pan around because there was no one else there except for the three of us. And we did the interview, and there was a line, of journalists, as you can imagine. The person beside E liked it so much that he asked us to come and talk, and that went on for 60 interviews. Wow. And because we were having such a good time, and there was no one there and no one else that they could talk to, so they talked to us and cut to walking into this venue with all of these people, and then getting having our names read, the accountant having that opportunity and kind of walking up on stage, and it really is, when you approach it from the heartfelt truth, which is, this is probably never going to happen again, and I can't really even believe that it's happening now. So the only thing that you can be is extremely earnest and over the top, Yeah. And I think we did kind of both of that, and it was we felt like Cinderella, really. Mm-hmm. We really did. It was an extraordinary experience, and an evening that I'll never forget. what's so exciting about television now, and it really started with The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
At least, for cable, this long format of storytelling.
Yeah.
The Shield was kind of in there, and then so many other shows, were on the heels of The Sopranos and extend through now. That when you begin, one of these shows, the greatest journey is you don't know if your movie on television is going to be 13 hours or if it's going to be 84 hours.
Yeah.
But at the very least, it's going to be 13 hours. And what you can accomplish in 13 hours, in my opinion, is far greater than what you can accomplish in 2 hours in a movie.
Yeah.
It's really this long format film that is so new. It's such a new medium, and all of these actors, these wonderful actors, and these wonderful writers, and people on the crew, and the DP, and these directors, all of these people participate in that story, and they really get to put their stamp on it, and it's just such an exciting time in television.
Oh yeah, there's just so much good quality coming out, especially for American TV. Really, really amazing stuff. And you're right, it probably started from The Sopranos and The Shield, and it's just gone all the way through, and it's still going strong now.
Yeah, it is.
Well, the big thing in terms of quality, too, is having that 13 episodes, I think, is a much better arc, a way of telling an arc than, say, 22 or 24, which is what broadcast still tries to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a paradigm that lends itself to people following it week to week. It doesn't overwhelm them, and the stories can stay fresh. It feels like you can write a character can truly have an arc that has a beginning, a middle, and an end that is not the real end. Mm. And for some reason, maybe like the number of feet that it takes to get to first and second and third base, they just got it right with the 13 for cable. It's unbelievable. Mm.
Well, I wanted to ask you one more Justified question. What is it like for a regular star, regular cast member like yourself or Timothy, to have a guest star come on like Margot Martindale for a season and just knock it out of the park?
It's an honor, we don't differentiate between regulars and guest stars, and I think probably the best shows would all agree. If you show up and you have a seat at the table and you participate to your heart's content. And for me, and I think Tim would say the same thing, it was a pleasure to sit and watch this woman do her thing. Mm-hmm. And, you would sit on the other side of that camera and see her shine in a way that was a result of her 40-year career. She's so talented. And for, at this season in her life to get this opportunity to shine in a way that she's always been capable of shining, and to see that firsthand was, is something I'll never forget. I would say the same thing about Jeremy Davies. Yeah. He is just so talented and so specific, and came ready to play. Mm-hmm. and everybody else. We had 3 or 4 of the guest stars on Brad Hinkey. Who came on the show this year. It was, I love it. I just love good work. Mm-hmm. I respect good work, regardless of, I respect a good latte.
Yeah.
From Brothers, and I respect a good line. I respect a good direction, and I Lord knows, I respect a good interpretation of a line by an actor.
But isn't it amazing that the 4 of you specifically were nominated by the Academy this year, and it was almost like I couldn't believe what I was reading because, for The Shield, so many of you guys were ignored on The Shield for years, and most of us expected it's just going to keep happening to our frustration, and then it finally happened, and it's really nice to see really good work recognised by the Academy. So
humbled, and I thank you very much for going to make me blush. I'm just grateful to be coming to the party, and I really am.